Imagine a sound so loud that it traverses entire galaxies. Such a powerful sound. That doesn't resonate, it devastates. It doesn't come from a nuclear explosion, nor from a supernova. He is born when space-time tears apart. And here's the question: if you were nearby, could you survive the loudest sound in the universe? If you enjoy this kind of cosmic thrill, subscribe to the channel. Because here we explore the kind of knowledge that not only teaches you, but transforms you. And the next sound you hear could be the universe calling you to wake up. Leave a comment telling us which city you're from. The loudest sound ever recorded in space did not occur on Earth. It wasn't born from volcanoes, nor from bombs, nor from storms. He emerged from the void, where absolute silence should reign, more than 200 million light-years away. In the Perseus cluster, a sea of superheated gas envelops hundreds of galaxies like a fiery mist. At its center, a supermassive black hole not only devours matter, it pulsates. With each pulse, the surrounding gas is pushed outward in colossal waves, pressure waves, sound. We saw these ripples, circular, regular waves, traversing the cluster for millions of light years. The note is an impossible B-flat, 57 octaves below middle C on a piano. So low that no human ear could hear it. So powerful that it travels through intergalactic space, like an earthquake in slow motion. It's a roar that doesn't echo, it perseveres. That's the paradox. The loudest sound in the universe is inaudible to us, not because it doesn't exist, but because our biology doesn't reach the abyss where it vibrates. Even so, it leaves marks in visible circles that we can see, like heartbeats in a cosmic examination. Centuries before we pointed telescopes at this endless grave, a man had already given rhythm to the sky. Edmond Halley. He looked at the apparent chaos of comets and saw a pattern. He calculated orbits. He predicted returns. He transformed omens into a calendar. Halley taught humanity that the firmament is not a whim. It is a cycle. Today, we know that the sky doesn't just rotate, it resonates. Perseus is a gravitational metronome, an organ buried in darkness, playing the same note for ages. Each pulse from the black hole inflates bubbles in the gas, and each bubble pushes the surrounding medium, keeping the note burning like a cold ember. If we brought that sound down to our scale, to the range of our hearing, the pressure would be unbearable, structures would crumble, the air would tear apart, the human body wouldn't have time for astonishment. But we don't need to hear it to understand it. We just need to see the waves and accept what they mean. The universe is not just light passing through the void. It is matter that vibrates, time that pulses, silence that carries a continuous bass. Halley counted the time in heaven. Perseus reveals his rhythm. And we, small and attentive, learn that the cosmos is not silent, it speaks in a language slower, deeper, and older than any sound we have ever known. It came from a cosmic monster called the Perseus cluster of galaxies, an archipelago of hundreds of galaxies trapped by gravity, immersed in a sea of gas so hot it would make the sun seem lukewarm. At its center, a supermassive black hole pulsates like a heart buried in darkness. With each beat, it pushes the surrounding gas and pressure waves that travel millions of light years. It's not thunder. It's a continuous bass, a sound we don't hear, but the entire universe feels. This roar wasn't born yesterday. It has been playing the same note for ages, like a colossal organ hidden among galaxies. Invisible waves draw circles in the gas, proof that cosmic silence is only an appearance. Space vibrates, time follows. Centuries before we pointed telescopes into that abyss, one man had already given rhythm to the sky. Edmond Halley. He looked at the chaos of comets and found a pattern. He calculated orbits, predicted returns, transformed omens into a calendar. Halley taught that the firmament has a compass that what seems random returns in due time. Like a beat, Perseus confirms this lesson on a scale that surpasses our imagination. The black hole at its core is a gravitational metronome, its plasma bubbles inflated by jets, its pressure waves pushing the gas. Everything pulses in cadence, sustaining an absolute B-flat that no human ear can reach. If we were to translate this sound into our hearing range, the pressure would be devastating. The air would tear, structures would crumble, the body would fail in an instant. But even without hearing, we see the music, circles, rhythms, patterns, signatures of a note that never ceases. Halley taught us to count the returns of the sky. Perseus compels us to feel its heartbeat. A comet traces the compass of human time. A cluster traces the compass of the cosmos itself. And between one return and another, between one pulse and the next, we understand the universe is not only light crossing the void, it is also rhythm, engraved in waves that traverse eras. In 2003, astronomers pointed their telescopes there and saw something strange. In the X-ray map, the superheated gas of the Perseus cluster looked like an ancient lake, and someone had thrown an invisible stone. Perfect, concentric circles expanded silently. They weren't shadows. They were pressure waves, sound drawn in space. With each pulse of the black hole in the central galaxy, gas was pushed outward, as if a heart buried in darkness marked the rhythm of the void. The note, a B-flat so low it is far beyond the decipherable of any human-era basso continuo that spans millions of light years, repeating itself for ages. Centuries before this image, Edmond Halley had already taught humanity to distrust chaos. He looked at wandering comets and saw returns. He transformed omens into periods. Halley showed that the sky has patterns, and there, in 2003, his intellectual heirs did something similar but with silence. They didn't just see light, they saw rhythm. They read the cosmos as Halley read comets. They sought what returns. Each ring in the gas was a reminder that the universe is not just brightness, it is also a beat. If we were to bring that sound down to our scale, it wouldn't be music, it would be impact. The air would tear apart, structures would crumble, the human body would fail before it could comprehend. But from the right distance, understanding remains. What Halley recounted with dates, Perseus reveals with waves, a calendar of silence, a gravitational metronome that marks the time of the abyss, and reminds us that, deep down, the universe repeats itself. And when it repeats, it speaks, even if no one can hear it. Giant ripples in cosmic gases, stretching across millions of light years. It was as if someone had thrown an invisible stone into an ocean of fire. Rings form, rings grow, rings persist. This sea is not water, it's gas at millions of degrees, suspended between galaxies. And yet, he's thrilled. He obeys a rhythm that is not human. Each ripple is an ancient pulse, a beat that originated from the center, where a supermassive black hole breathes in silent jets. The bubbles he inflates in the gas aren't bubbles, they're drums, and the entire group responds. Millions of light years away, the ring is still there, a mobile scar, a calendar that doesn't use numbers, uses distance. Centuries before we saw these circles in the dark, Edmond Halley looked up and questioned the nature of chance. He realized that what seemed like a whim comes back. Comets have deadlines. The sky has a memory. Halley taught us to look for the return. And that's exactly what we see here. One wave, then another, the space repeating itself, punctuated by a basso continuo that we don't hear, but read. If we could translate that movement to our ears, it wouldn't be music, it would be impact. Torn air, structures collapsing, the human body giving up before it understands. From the right distance, however, it becomes understandable. The ripples are the calligraphy of the abyss. The cluster writes in circles what Halley wrote in dates. The universe returns, and on the return trip, he speaks, even if no one can hear. These ripples were pressure waves, sound ancient, profound, imprinted in the gas that boils between galaxies. In a vacuum, sound dies, but there, in the Perseus cluster, there is a way, an invisible ocean millions of degrees away, ready to vibrate. Each pulse from the black hole pushes this incandescent sea outward like a lightless punch. Rings are born, rings grow, rings persist. It's not an echo, it's a compass. The cluster responds like a drum buried in the dark, sustaining a note that no human ear can reach. If we brought that low note into our scale, it wouldn't be music, it would be impact. The air would tear apart, structures would collapse, the body would give up before the shock. Centuries before we could see these gas vibrations, Edmond Halley suspected chaos in the sky. He saw comets return. He transformed omens into periods. He gave the heavens a clock. And this is what Perseus reveals now, in the language of silence. Returning pressure waves, a cadence we can see even without hearing. Each ring is a reminder that the universe is not just light passing through the void. It is matter that vibrates, time that pulsates, rhythm that insists. Halley counted the cycles using dates. Perseus engraved them in circles, a sound calendar without sound, the cosmos speaking softly, in pressure waves that travel millions of light years. A roar minus 143 million times lower than the lowest note on a piano. There is no key for that. There are no strings, nor a speaker box. It's a bass so deep it doesn't fit in our ears. It only fits in the cosmos. In the Perseus cluster, the superheated gas doesn't sound. It moves. Each pulse from the black hole inflates invisible bubbles, pushes against the surrounding environment, and the universe responds with pressure waves, circles that travel for millions of light years. If we tried to climb that roar, step by step, up to our scale, octave by octave, it would transform into impact. The air would tear, structures would collapse, the ribcage would vibrate like a tuning fork about to break. It's not music, it's rhythm, the kind of rhythm that's measured in distances and eras, not in measures, a continuous bass note that we don't hear, but see drawn in the gas ring, then ring, then ring.
Centuries before we pointed X-ray vision into this abyss, Edmond Halley taught us to distrust chance. He looked at wandering comets and discovered returns. He transformed omens into periods. He gave heaven a clock. Perseus confirms Halley's lesson on a chilling scale. What appears to be silence has a pattern. What seems like chaos has cycles. This roar, minus 243 million times below our limit, is the basso continuo of the universe, marking time with waves that no one hears and everyone can read. Halley counted the sky using dates. Perseus writes it in circles. And between one pulse and the next, we learn the cosmos is not just light running in the void, it is matter that vibrates, an ancient heart beating where no piano can reach. It's inaudible to us, not because it's weak, but because it vibrates too far from our ear. The universe speaks in frequencies that the human body cannot reach. In a vacuum, sound dies. In the gas of Perseus, it lives, pushing, compressing, drawing rings that span millions of light years. And that's how we hear, not with eardrums, but with eyes that perceive pressure. The silence we feel is the size of our biology, not the cosmos. The basso continuo of Perseus is below any note that an instrument can play, below any memory that the ear can retain. If we were to translate that deep tone into our track, it would cease to be music and become impact. Torn air, structures giving way, the body surrendering before the shock. Centuries before we pointed telescopes at that silent roar, Edmond Halley was already teaching another way to listen to the sky. He listened with patterns. He turned the return of comets into a calendar. He exchanged omens for periods. Today, we do the same with the silence of Perseus. We read its waves as Halley read orbits searching for what returns, what persists, what marks time. We didn't listen to him. We see him, and when we see it, we finally understand the universe is not silent. It just speaks in an octave that is not ours, but brutal enough to be recorded. 250 million light-years away. Consider what this means. The light carrying the memory of that impact traveled for hundreds of millions of years to reach our detectors. On the X-ray map, the gas of Perseus doesn't appear still. It shows concentric scars, like the echo of a punch that never ended. Each ring is a signature of force, a confession from the medium saying, "Someone pushed me from here." It's not just a whisper in the depths of the cosmos. It's a push that spans ages, a tremor that remains legible when all of human history was still in the future. The pressure was so immense that it didn't need eardrums to exist. An incandescent sea was enough to vibrate, and a journey too long to fit into our lives long enough to reach us. Centuries before we deciphered these circles in the dark, Edmond Halley transformed omens into a calendar. He taught that the sky has its returns, that there is order behind the apparent caprice. Today we repeat the lesson with another language. We don't count comets, we count pressure waves. Where Halley saw returning trajectories, we see persistent rings. He gave us a clock for the firmament. Perseus offers us the beat, and that's how an inaudible sound can be so brutal, by leaving marks that transcend time, by writing in the gas a diary of impacts that we can still read even 250 million light-years away. But how can something be the loudest sound in the universe, and yet no one listens to him? Because high is not synonymous with sharp. Alto refers to amplitude, the size of the push, and that push is enormous. Sound needs a medium. In a vacuum, it dies. But in the Perseus cluster, there is a sea of incandescent gas. There, each pulse from the black hole compresses and decompresses this gas, creating pressure waves with gigantic wavelengths and periods that defy our timescale. It's an absolute bass, so slow that the human ear doesn't perceive it, so strong that it distorts the environment at unimaginable distances, inaudible to us, unequivocal for the cosmos. We don't hear it with our eardrums. We see its signature in X-rays, concentric rings, scars of a force that persists. If we were to translate that bass into our hearing range, the pressure would be absurd. The air would tear apart, structures would crumble, the body would fail before even the astonishment. That's why it's the highest, not because of the tone, but because of the force of the wave. Centuries before we started reading that rhythm in gas, Edmond Halley taught us to distrust chance. He listened to the heavens in a different way. He sought returns, patterns, periods. He transformed omens into a calendar. We do the same here. Where Halley counted comets, we count ripples. He proved that the sky has a clock. Perseus shows that the clock has a beat. The loudest sound in the universe is a pulse that doesn't fit in our ears, but it fits within the time frame, and he always comes back. And at the same time, nobody can hear it. Because hearing is a limitation of the body, not of the cosmos. Sound needs a medium, and in space almost everything is a vacuum. Where there is gas, as in Perseus, waves exist, pushing, compressing, leaving visible scars. But the note is so slow, so deep, that it falls far below human reach. It doesn't lack power, it lacks translation. It's a roar that lives on another timescale.
We don't perceive it with eardrums. We perceive it with eyes that see X-rays and with minds that recognize patterns, concentric rings, returns, repetition. That is how this silent sound became evident, like a heartbeat projected into the dark gaseous. space between galaxies. Centuries earlier, Edmond Halley had already shown the way. He didn't hear comets, he read the sky. He sought what returns. He converted omens into periods, chaos into a calendar. Halley taught us that the firmament speaks through recurrence. This is what happens here. The universe doesn't whisper in your ear, it writes in waves. Where Halley counted the returns of a comet, we count the cycles of an ancient pressure. The result is the same, a message that traverses eras. No one hears, and yet we can all see. The loudest sound in the universe speaks in a language of cycles, and each cycle says, I return. In Perseus, silence is not absence. It is a continuous bass that marks the time of the abyss. Because in space, there is no air, and sound, as we know it, needs a medium to propagate. In a perfect vacuum, a wave dies before it is born. There are no molecules to compress, nothing to push, no eardrums to vibrate. That is why the cosmos seems silent. But not all space is a vacuum. In the Perseus cluster, there exists a very thin sea of gas, a plasma at millions of degrees, rarefied like a whisper, but real enough to vibrate. There, each pulse from the central black hole compresses and decompresses this medium, generating pressure waves that travel for millions of light years. It is sound, yes, but in an almost non-existent air, too far away and too slow for our biology. Between us and Perseus, however, reigns the void. The wave does not cross nothingness, it fades along the way. What reaches us is the light of the impact, X-rays revealing concentric rings, scars that betray the original push. We do not hear with our ears, we hear with our eyes. Centuries before we read this silent music, Edmond Halley showed us how to listen to the sky without sound. He found patterns. Where there were only omens, he transformed returns into a calendar. We do the same here. Where there is a lack of air, method abounds. Where there is no ear, reason enters. There is no air, but there is rhythm. There is no sound for us, but there are waves to see. Halley counted comets, we count rings, and the universe, even though silent to our bodies, continues to speak. But the sound of Perseus travels through ultra-hot cosmic gases, like shock waves. It's not air, it's plasma, a rarefied, magnetic sea, millions of degrees hot. Even so, it vibrates. With each silent explosion of the central black hole, invisible bubbles inflate and push against the surrounding environment. Compression comes first, rarefaction follows, and the entire cluster receives the impact like a drum sunk in darkness. The wave travels, heats up, draws rings, leaves scars. It's not music, it's physics. These waves are the abyss's way of saying, I was here. They originate from the core, traverse millions of light years, lose strength, but not their form, concentric circles. The calligraphy of a pulsating force. If we brought this beat into our atmosphere, it would become devastation, torn air, crumbling structures. There, however, it is a slow and irresistible tide, repeated throughout the ages, sustaining a bass that we do not hear, and that does not cease. Centuries before we learn to read waves in gas, Edmond Halley was already reading patterns in the sky. He transformed errant comets into predictable returns, giving a calendar to what seemed like a whim. We do the same with Perseus. We count shocks as Halley counted orbits. Each ring is a again, each pulse a yet. Halley taught us that the firmament has cycles. Perseus responds by showing the rhythm shock waves that traverse time, marking in the plasma the lowest beat of the universe. And now, hold this, if the B-flat note from Perseus were brought into our hearing range, it wouldn't become music, it would become destruction. The pressure would be so absurd that the air would tear apart, the walls would collapse, and the human body would fail before even beginning to react. This sound is so low that no ear perceives it, but so loud that it leaves scars in the gas, millions of light years away. Edmond Halley taught us to expect the return of comets, to recognize that the sky has patterns. Perseus is this principle taken to the extreme, a black hole marking time with pressure waves that come and go, ring after ring, for ages. Where Halley wrote dates, Perseus writes circles. Where Halley predicted a reunion in the sky, the cluster maintains an unceasing beat. So hold on, the universe doesn't sing to us, he insists. He insists on a gravity so profound that we can only see it. He insists on a cycle so ancient that it runs through our entire history and continues. And as Halley proved, What returns is not a whim, it is law. In Perseus, this law has a sound even when no one can hear it. If that sound were adapted to our hearing, it wouldn't become a soundtrack, it would become a scam. To bring it from the depths to the human range, we would need to go up dozens of octaves. Each octave would double the frequency, compressing ears into seconds. If the amplitude, the size of the push remained the same, we would be concentrating power in an ever smaller interval. The result? Absurd dynamic pressure. The air would tear apart in shock fronts. Windows would shatter. Structures would vibrate out of scale. Before the brain could understand what was happening, eardrums would collapse. The chest would tremble like a speaker about to burst. It wouldn't be music. It would be impact. It's like translating an earthquake into a beat. The basso continuo of Perseus, stretched over millions of years, would become a punch of air here. The note that today we can only see in X-rays would become a physical presence, a push that goes through the body and doesn't ask permission. Centuries before we could imagine this experiment, Edmond Halley was already doing another translation. He took wandering omens and transformed them into predictable periods. He gave chaos a calendar. To do the same with Perseus, to bring his unthinkable bass to our ears would be to give a clock to that which we only know as waves in the dark. But clocks can also be hammers, and in that case, the blow would not mark time. It would knock down whatever it finds. Halley taught us to wait for the return. Perseus, if we listened to him, would teach us to respect the blow. Not only would it instantly deafen you, it would tear through the air around it with a single burst of pressure. The eardrums would crumble like thin glass. The inner ear would lose its sense of direction. The chest would vibrate out of scale. The ribcage converted into an acoustic chamber. The sound would cease to be sound. It would become a shock. The wave would pierce through muscles and bones, make teeth chatter. It would take your breath away before your brain could even process the threat. No melody, no notes, just the blow. And it wouldn't be a one-off blow. If that deep bass from Perseus could fit in our ears, every return of the wave would be. It would arrive like a hammer on the same spot, again and again, until the surrounding structures gave way. The environment would tremble. The surfaces would resonate, and you would realize too late that there is no refuge in the atmosphere itself. Centuries before we could imagine this scenario, Edmond Halley had already revealed it. The secret of heaven. What returns persists. He transformed omens into periods. He gave chaos a calendar. Here, the lesson is harsher. The return is not a promise of beauty. It's the cadence of a gravity metronome. Each beat, a reminder. Each repetition, a strike. And the music of the cosmos when finally heard. It would be the countdown. First, the pressure hit. The wave front arrives like a moving wall. The eardrums rupture. Air is pushed in and out at the same time. Your chest becomes a collapsing acoustic chamber. You lose your breath before the fear even sets in. Next comes shear. Each part of the body accelerates at a different rate. Tissues separate from each other. Blood vessels rupture. Ligaments fail. It's not that the molecules separate. It's that the body ceases to be a cohesive system. Next, resonance. Internal cavities begin to vibrate uncontrollably. Bones behave like beams at a forbidden frequency. What was built to hold things up begins to creak, and then gives way. Then comes cavitation. Behind the crest of the wave, the pressure drops suddenly, forming microbubbles that collapse like invisible needles from the inside. Each collapse is a tiny impact, multiplied by millions. And it's not a single blow. It's a recurring pattern. The next peak arrives before any recovery can take place. More shear, more resonance, more failures, with just a few cycles. The organism that once functioned as a whole becomes fragmented in its functions. Parts that no longer communicate with each other. A disassembled clock. Centuries before we even imagined this accounting of shock, Edmond Halley taught that heaven has its rewards. He transformed apparent chance into periods. Here, the arithmetic is cruelly similar. Each return of the wave is another hammer. Each period represents one less chance for integrity. Halley counted comets. Perseus counts structural flaws. Ultimately, disintegrating isn't about turning to dust, it's about losing the internal harmony that keeps you whole. Under a sound like that, adapted to our scale, you wouldn't be a body. It would be a set of parts vibrating out of sync until the beat fades, and you with it. The sound pressure would be so intense that the human body would implode in less than a second. First comes the peak and absolute surge, like a wall of air crushing everything at once. The eardrums rupture instantly. The air in the lungs is compressed and expelled in a single spasm. Then, the gradient, head, chest, and abdomen accelerate at different rates. Tissues tear from tissue. Vessels burst. The heart tries to beat, but the wave hits harder. Tenths of a second later, the rarefaction leans behind the ridge, and what was compressed is now pulled out. Microscopic. Cavities form in the blood and collapse like invisible needles. Alveoli open like wet paper. Bones enter into forbidden resonance, creak, and fail. It's not a bang, it's an internal collapse. The body doesn't break outward, it collapses inward, as if the very structure lost the courage to stand. And it wouldn't be a single blow. If this impact came in series, each crust would find an organism weaker than the last, until nothing inside was in sync with anything else, a clock broken, parts vibrating out of rhythm. Centuries before we imagined this accounting of shock, Edmond Halley taught that the sky has returns. He transformed omens into periods, noises into patterns. Here, the mathematics is the same, only cruel. Each return of the wave is less body and more emptiness. Halley counted comets, returning to their starting point. Perseus counts structural flaws returning to the same place. And at the right cadence, a second is too much time. The universe needs less than that to dismantle you. You wouldn't have time to scream. To scream, you need air rising from your lungs, your diaphragm pushing, your glottis opening, your vocal cords vibrating, your mouth and tongue shaping the sound. The wave doesn't allow that. It arrives first. It crushes your chest, expels the air in a blind spasm, closes your throat like a door slammed shut by the wind. The reflex is silence. Your mouth opens, but nothing gets through. The only sound in the environment is that of the wave itself, a blow. That takes the place of your voice. The body tries to synchronize, but falls out of sync. Muscles stiffen. The larynx collapses. The vocal cords don't vibrate, they vibrate, out of scale. Like loose wires on a bridge during a storm. What would come out as words becomes broken air. What would be a scream becomes a domestic vacuum, a personal void within the shock. Centuries before we could imagine such a violent silence, Edmond Halley had already explained what the sky does with time. It returns. Returns, periods, rhythm. Here, the return is faster than your reaction or slower than your entire life, and yet inevitable. Halley's comet returns so that we may see it. The beat of Perseus returns so that we cannot speak. The universe sets the rhythm, and when it enters, your voice does not enter with it. The scream would be swallowed by its own sound. For a scream to exist, it needs air rising, the diaphragm pushing, the glottis opening, and the vocal cords vibrating in a controlled manner. The wave arrives first. It compresses the chest, tightens the throat, pushes the air back in. The little that escapes shatters in turbulence. Your strings don't sing, they're shaken from the outside in, out of phase. What would be words becomes formless noise. What would be voice becomes compressed silence. The shockwave occupies the space your voice would occupy. It's like trying to light a candle in the middle of a blowtorch. The flame doesn't go out. It doesn't even get born. Any sound you tried to make would be canceled, drowned in the same pressure. That hits you. There's no echo, no response, only a single note, too long, too strong, that devours all others. Centuries before this violent silence, Edmond Halley had already shown how the sky speaks without speaking, through returns. He transformed omens into periods, drawing a calendar where there was only fright. Here, the lesson is similar and harsher. The beat of Perseus returns before its syllable begins. The universe marks the beat. You, trying to enter, are swallowed by the sound itself. Halley counted the time in heaven. Perseus' silence is the time of his voice. And when the cosmos decides to play a single note, no other survives. The truth is, the universe is screaming all the time. Not in words, in energy. He screams in the light of dying stars, in particles being hurled at near light, in pressure waves that cross clusters, in tides of gravity that make space itself tremble. What we call silence is simply our deafness. Out there, supernovas write names in the dark. Magnetars crack like bones from the cosmos. Black holes touch bodies of gas and leave rings like scars. Even the depths of the universe microwave radiation are a fossilized whisper, the oldest echo that still reaches us. And this is where Halley comes in. Edmond Halley was the first to teach, because the sky is not a whim, it's rhythm. He listened to the heavens with mathematics. He transformed omens into returns, fear into periods. Halley demonstrated how to listen without hearing, searching for what returns, what persists, what marks time. We're doing the same now. We counted rings in Perseus, we measured the tremor of gravitational waves, reading a scream that doesn't pass through the vocal cords of the universe. It goes through its cycles. The cosmic scream has no syllables. There are frequencies that our biology cannot reach, and time scales that our lives cannot accommodate. If we could translate all of that into our track, it wouldn't be music, it would be impact. Halley gave us a clock to the sky. The universe sets the beat, and between one return and another, we understood silence is merely an interval. Those who learn to count, like Halley, he finally learns to listen to the cry that never stopped. We just haven't learned how to listen yet. Our ears were born for storms, footsteps, whispers, not for ages. The universe speaks of pressure, of light, of gravity, of rhythms that last longer than civilizations. When we look at the sky and say silence, it's only because our bodies can't reach the octave of the cosmos. Learning to listen is not about opening your ears, it's about translating. It's like replacing eardrums with telescopes, vocal cords with pressure waves, words by patterns. It's like seeing rings in the gas of Perseus and recognizing them as beats. It's realizing that the flickering light is a syllable, that the returning pulse is a refrain. This is what Edmond Halley did first. He listened to the sky with mathematics. Where everyone saw omens, he saw returns. Where they felt frightened, he marked periods. Halley taught us that there is music in what comes back, that the firmament has a compass. The next step is ours. Adjust your ear to the time of the abyss, compressing infinite octaves into comprehensible seconds, to convert silence into visible signatures, accepting that not listening is not the same as not existing. While we learn, the universe continues to sing softly, a continuous bass line that spans the ages. And when we finally tune in with Halley, perhaps we will discover that what we called silence, it has always been old music, waiting patiently for our first correct ear. If this video made you feel tiny, yet simultaneously part of something bigger, then you're already listening to the right music of the universe. That's what Edmond Halley did. He looked at the chaos of the sky and found returns proving that even infinity has a rhythm. Here we follow the same beat, transforming astonishment into understanding, silence into pattern. If you felt this calling, stay with us. Sign up now and join our constellation of explorers. Because each video is a new return like Halley's comet, and each return brings you closer to the heart of the cosmos. Click like, turn on notifications, and move on to the next track on the playlist. It will take you a step further, where the invisible takes shape and the impossible gains rhythm. We are Aglomerado, and the sky, as Halley showed, always comes back. It comes back with us. See you there, Cosmic Explorer. Like Edmond Halley's comet, we always return at the right time, with another question that changes the size of our world. If this return made sense to you, stay tuned. Each video is another brilliant of knowledge, a reunion with the infinite. Sign up, turn on notifications, and come along with our constellation. That way, when the next return arrives, you'll already be in the right orbit. This is Aglomerado, with each turn closer to the heart of the cosmos. See you there.